Hi everyone. So gearing up to garden has a different meaning here in winter. It's actually not a terrible day. It's about 30 degrees here today, which is the nicest weather we've had in a while. We are getting more snow. And this is not how I was going to start this video. My plan was to go around the yard. It's been about a month since I've put any deer spray out. I'm seeing a lot of deer in the yard because they're getting very hungry at this time of year. And so I was gonna head around and spray everything. And then I was gonna kind of walk you through the yard and sort of show you some of the things that I found while I was doing that. Well, we're still gonna do that, except just as I was setting up this shot, I looked at this tree behind me and I thought, that tree doesn't look right. This is my flowering teacup, rosy teacups dogwood. Yesterday, it looked great. I'm gonna take you in closely, but let me just grab something you can see what happened. Do you see this? I could cry. I'm going to get you in there, but they've chewed off all the bottom branches, broken them all off. They've gnawed them to pieces. I mean, which I guess at this point they might as well get some nourishment out of it since they ruined it's just so sad. It was this beautiful vase shape. This is the kind of stuff that happens though if you delay doing these things. I've not been wanting to come out. It's been like 0 degrees. So I've not been wanting to come out and do this. And I'll admit that I've just been sort of avoiding doing it. And I was assuming that since this tree is right by our back door, that it would be okay. I hadn't seen any footsteps through here. Now, of course, you can see they must have just been standing there overnight. And it clearly happened last night. And I'm so sad that I'm 1 day late on this. Okay, so I've mixed up my backpack sprayer with my deer repellent. I use Messina's Deer Stopper 2. No, that's not sponsored, and it should be because I mention it all the time. And I'm just going to go around and hit all the plants on this. My theory on spraying for deer at this time of year is, one, I'm trying to prevent the kind of damage that has happened on this dogwood, which is that you want to prevent big damage. These are not things they would normally eat. They are so hungry right now and so desperate for food that they start eating things that they shouldn't eat. The other thing I do is spray anything that I want to sort of train the deer not to eat. So for instance, my Limelight is not something that really matters that much if they eat because it blooms on new wood. I'm going to be pruning it anyway. But I'm trying to train them that this plant never tastes good. So if they think about getting a taste for it, I don't want them coming back. So I will spray almost anything that's sticking up out of the ground right now that is a shrub or a tree, just to try to eliminate future damage and obviously eliminate the kind of damage that we saw on that dogwood. To be honest, I might kind of be fooling myself here by thinking that spray alone is going to stop deer when they're this hungry. I mean, this is extreme deer damage. Not the kind that I see often. So this is probably something where really a physical barrier might be the only way to really get them to stop. It is, of course, very difficult to do a physical barrier at this point. Just sticking out the very top of this snowbank is some tiny tough stuff, which blooms on old wood. I'm just going to hit the tips of that. Most of it is protected by snow at this particular moment. So here's my perspective on deer, because I know a lot of us gardeners deal with deer, and there aren't a lot of things you can do, to be honest. I mean, first of all, the best thing you can do is put up a perimeter fence. So that's an 8-foot or taller fence around the edge of your property, and it means you have to do things like block off your driveway. That's not an option for me for a number of reasons. One, there's a coding problem with that. Two, I don't really have any idea what we would do with our driveway. And three, it's expensive. 4, it's not something I really want to look at. And 5, one of our neighbors, and we're good friends with all of our neighbors, has specifically asked us not to put a fence over there. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to look at it either. So fence is out. Deer resistant plants, most of what I'm seeing damage to are deer resistant. And you can see what happens in winter. When deer get hungry enough, this is what happens. So I use deer spray, and it's basically, for the most part, it works for me. What happened to my dogwood is my fault. I should have been out here. I should have been on top of it. I was lazy and didn't feel like getting, hypothermia spraying deer stuff around. Or I should have caged it, which I didn't really want to look at a cage all winter long. So, they are here too, and it's just my job to figure out a way to manage them and also to complain about them on occasion. Okay, now, as I mentioned, this is a really important time in the garden. This is the time of year when you really should be thinking about doing pruning. So this is like tree pruning, and I'm going to walk you around and show some of the things that are on my list to prune. I'm not going to do it today because the snow is prohibitively deep in some places where I require a ladder or other things. I'm hoping that by next week, I think I can easily push this off till next weekend, and I'm hoping that by then there'll be a little bit less snow and it'll be a little easier to manage. Things like shrubs, these things don't need to be done. We've got some time on those things. For instance, like this Limelight, that's usually like a mid-March thing for me. You can even push that a little bit too. So we've got some room on those things, as well as other hydrangeas, especially ones that get cut basically back all the way. Plenty of time to deal with that at this point. So just a side note, what I'm going to do here, all of these branches that you can see here that have had, like, there's nothing to be gained by keeping this branch where they've clearly nibbled quite a bit, almost all the way around. I'll cut that back to the trunk. I'll probably cut most of these back to that trunk, and we're just going to have to go with it. There's nothing else to be done at this point about it, so we'll just have to re-envision the shape of this tree from here. Okay, this is about a couple hours later, and upon further inspection, I actually think I blamed the deer when I shouldn't have. This has all the signs of rabbit damage. There's a clear cut on the stems, and it seems quite high for rabbit damage, except remember they're on top of the snow, and also all that little gnawing, that's typically rabbits rather than deer. Also, the buds are, I assume, quite tasty, and I see that those haven't been nipped off, probably yet. And there's no reason to think that deer wouldn't have eaten those before they started eating into the woods. So this is the very ugly thing I've done. It is burlap and some deer netting tied on with kitchen twine, because that's the best I can do right now to just prevent any further damage. So when I said I didn't want an ugly cage by my back door, I guess I didn't succeed. On one of my 2 climbing hydrangeas, this is really promising. If you can see this, check out that bud. Nice, green, beautiful buds, big fat buds. Of course, I sprayed that too. This climbing hydrangea continues to amaze me. It's not as old as I would have thought it would be for as mature as it is, and it's really doing good. And I decided last year to allow it to come around the front. I'd been pruning it back, but you can see it coming around the door, and I'm just going to let it go over the top of the door and over to the pergola, I think, if it wants to do that. One of the things that I've noticed the deer eating, well, I mean, you can always tell what they're eating because there's a lot of poop around. This is a blue kazoo spirea, which they have eaten to the ground. This was 2 feet tall. That's okay. Spireas can handle a hard pruning, so that's what my plants just got. They just got a hard pruning. So one of the pruning jobs is this hornbeam hedge that's behind me. And I'm going to work through that in a video. I've had a lot of requests for an update to that video, and I've had a little bit of a change of thought about what's happening with that hedge, and we're going to add to it. So next week we'll work on that because I do need to get pruning on that now. These 3 Limelight hydrangeas along the deck here, you can see how high the snow is piled up. That is because we pushed the snow off the deck right there. It's going to be a while before I can get in there, although those are a pretty easy prune. I generally prune them straight along the edge of the deck. So everything you see from the deck level up is new growth last year. This is an incredible hydrangea. This is an arborescence type, so that gets treated the same way as Annabelle, which means I will cut that back to probably 18 inches or so. So it doesn't matter really when that happens. Here's our back stairs off our deck. I see somebody try to use them, but other than that, those are not really usable right now. This is a ginkgo that I pruned last year in a video. Now this is gold spire ginkgo. It is supposed to be a tree form that grows all the way from the bottom to the top. When we had a tree over here dropped, it crushed it. So I had to create a new leader out of one of the branches. And it needs some more forming because you can see what I've intended to be the leader now is heading off this direction. So I have to kind of straighten that, and there's some things that are trying to be leaders on the other side of it. So this needs a pruning, and now's the time to do that one too. I'm very thankful though that the deer have not shown, knock on wood, interest in my tricolor beech, which is right next to where they're eating and pooping. But they've not touched the tricolor beech, which I'm very happy about. It absolutely got sprayed. I'm not taking any chances with that tree. All of the hydrangeas in this area are all arborescence type. So they are either, this is Annabelle, one of these is Invincible Spirit. We've got an Incredible over there and maybe another Invincible Spirit. So these all get cut essentially more or less to the ground. So they look terrible right now, and yes, the deer are nibbling on them, and I don't care so much about that. I am adding a new hydrangea this year. So one of these, I think this area I'm quite happy with. Something over there might be changing to accommodate a new hydrangea. We'll see. So we're over by the new garden now, by the road. Behind me here is Cornus moss. And I'm thankful to see that they've not been eating that either, but I did spray it quite a bit because that I expect to be the very first thing to flower here in the yard, and I don't want to miss out on that this year. So happy to see that doing well too. So this is the serviceberry that I planted last year, actually maybe 2 years ago now, in the new garden, and it's looking really nice. It's got some really nice buds on it. All of my serviceberries got cedar rust last year, very badly. So we're going to be treating for that this year. It's a copper fungicide. I don't think it hurts. I don't know how much it's going to help, but I'm going to try to prevent that problem this year. Don't you love how the little astilbes just stick up from the snow, just the tops of them? It's about the only thing over here. Everything else is just snow and a lot of tracks. Not across the bridge. The animals don't use the bridge. They just walk straight across the middle. And then lastly, I made sure that I hit these hydrangeas. This is tough stuff. These bloom on old wood. And interestingly, there's a lot of traffic over here. I think it's actually the dogs, not deer, although I do see some deer pellets behind there. But they look pretty good. Now behind it is the Espalier Asian pear. And there are parts of it that don't look great. I'm seeing a lot of little things sort of nipped off, but a lot of that looks like it might be old. So we're going to see how it buds out and see what's going on with that. I did lose 2 big branches off the side of it last year. So you can see these bottom 2 here only go out about a foot from the main branch. I don't really know what that's about. If I can, I will train another branch. If I get a sprout, I will train a branch to go that direction. And you can see that I am working on another tier up there as well. Looks like a very big branch down from a tree here. So those are some things to be thinking about in your yard. Probably is getting some, if you got any winter pruning to do, like late winter, which is where we're at, do that now. And then we're going to start gearing up for shrub pruning and garden cleaning out. Although right now, 3 feet of snow is going to prevent any sort of gardening cleaning out. It's okay. It'll all happen. No need to rush it, right? Because I already feel like I'm behind. All right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little just kind of walk through the garden and what I'm seeing in the garden and what's going through my head in terms of what comes next. And I hope you're having a great day in your garden, and we'll see you soon. Bye.